Hi, I'm Dr. Paul Carlisle, and I'm so glad that you decided to join me in this series that we're going to deep dive into some parenting issues, some of the more challenging aspects of parenting. When I was thinking about the title, boy, I've read so many books on parenting, but I came up with this little title that says, "You can do it." Yeah, I really believe you can do it. Now, your mind might be going, okay, Dr. Paul, we're really not sure you've ever met our children. And you don't know how difficult it is to do the parenting thing. Well, I assure you, I understand the challenges. But I want to help you learn how to grow those kids in such a healthy fashion. So here are just some general thoughts of mine about parenting in general that might let you know where I'm coming from. Number one, I don't think it's for the faint-hearted or the timid. It is a daunting, complex, and at times confusing endeavor, isn't it? I've got degrees in theology and in psychology and studied aspects of the development of children. And you know what? I still got confused. Because parenting is not just about knowing the data, it's about becoming a person who can live consistently so that it makes parenting healthy. You as a parent, you're on such a crazy adventure. Ups, exciting, downs, and this whole adventure, with all of its challenges, is about raising these kids in a way that they can be mature. I want to give you some ideas that will help you navigate this river called parenting. Really glad you're here. Here's what you can expect. You can expect me to be honest and open about the challenges and the difficulties and the failures that I've had as a parent. And you need to know that there are lots of them that I've had. I'm assuming that's true of all of us. When we have our first child, we have never, ever had any experience with parenting, maybe outside of being a big brother or a big sister to someone. So without that, we are learning as we go. God didn't give us a practiced robotic baby that we wouldn't damage. He gave us a living, breathing little child with a soul all its own. You can expect to be encouraged to keep on no matter what you face. I really believe, by the grace of God, that you can do it. You can be an adequate and competent parent. I believe that parents rarely get encouraged, rarely get validated, because you're just supposed to do your job. But I believe you guys really need a lot of that. Expect to be challenged. Not every idea I'm bringing is going to be an idea that you will fully buy, or maybe you've not even heard. What I'd like you to do, though, is just to kind of hold it loose, kind of like that, and think about it and pray over it. And the last point I want to make is we're going to laugh a little bit. Boy, it's so good for our brain when we laugh. It gives us so many good neurotransmitters along the way. Here's the 4 lessons that we're going to be looking at. The first ones that we're doing today is about stress and how it impacts you as a parent. Boy, we know that if we've done any parenting at all. Also, we're going to look at how your childhood, when you grew up, how your parents shaped you, and how that's now impacting the way you parent, positive and negative, both sides. Then we're going to understand a little bit more about your child's brain. So much good neuroscience out there today. We're going to try to help you get a handle on why do they keep doing those things. And then we're going to take a fresh look at child discipline. Discipline meaning to teach. And we're going to give you some thoughts or ideas. We're going to investigate that as well. And this is a foundational piece to all 4 of the lessons. The nature of a child. Like, we know some things about the nature of a dog. A dog is supposedly man's best friend. They have to eat. They need to be treated in a certain fashion. Do you know that we know about the nature of a child? I'm going to give you just 5 things. Number 1, a child is valuable. There is no way to put a money value on a little human life. They're extremely valuable, but they're also extremely vulnerable. Look at the little bitty ones, the infants. If they don't have us or someone to help them, they won't make it. By the way, as adults, we're vulnerable, but we've learned ways, not always healthy, to kind of protect or guard ourselves. The third thing about the nature of a child is the child is needy and dependent. You ought to be going like, amen, amen. They're needing something all the time. That's right. That's why in some ways we have to adjust the way we live as parents so that we can be more available to them in this needy and dependent times that they have. They're also imperfect. I'm a recovering perfectionist. I learned if I could get it right and get it really, really, really right, I could get approval. I wouldn't be rejected. These little ones, gosh, it's not good for them to be perfect. They can't be. It's not possible, nor is it for me or you. And they're immature. What I mean by that is, if you understand the maturity level they're at developmentally, it will benefit you a lot when it comes to raising and responding and reacting to your children. So here we go with today's lesson. Stressed out. Look at this guy. I don't know what you're doing right now, but I'm thinking of all those times I was stressed. It looks like I'm thinking he's doing his finances, but I'm not sure, his taxes. And in the midst of this stressful experience, there's that little one right over there. And look at him. Daddy. They don't know when you're in a place that you really probably aren't going to be very effective at talking. Have you been there? Yeah, I'm sure you have. I'm calling these timeout moments for us to reflect and to think some about what we're talking about. And here's the first one. After you've seen this particular slide and this information, you can even pause it and take some time if you're with a spouse or if you're with a group of people. But here's the first thought in this timeout. Try to recall the last time you were pretty stressed out about parenting in life. Just kind of let your mind roll back and pick up one of those. Do you remember what caused the stress? Now that can be helpful. Once we know what stresses us, we can begin to try to work on that. Did the stress impact how you parented your child at that time? I'm going to say, yeah, it really did. I was not as sensitive or kind or patient. And how did you get through that stress-filled time? Let's remember the things that we do that are helpful and good. Do you know what stress does? It blocks you from emotionally connecting with your child. When your brain gets all stressed, your ability to problem solve goes down. Actually, we believe the IQ drops a few points when we're in that stressed emotional place. Kind of like this picture of this car having its path blocked. It would really be good for us to kind of look at the symptoms of stress. Chest pain, or heart racing, fatigue, a lot more than just tired. Can even have difficulties with sleep, headaches, dizziness. There could even be kind of a trembling, shaking that goes on. High blood pressure goes up under stress. Muscle tension or jaw clenching. The stomach, wow, has as many neurons not as many, but second to the brain, it has the most of the organs of the body. So, boy, is that a lot to be impacted when we're stressed. And I hope you notice that stress shows up first in our body, not so much the emotions, not so much our thoughts. So if we can find ways to calm the body, then we can find some ways to effectively handle stress. I love my wife's chocolate chip cookies. This picture here reminds me of them. It's a recipe of how to make a certain type cookie. Do you know that there is a recipe for stress? I'm going to give it to you, and I know it's simple, but try to hold on this and see if you can get a little bit of traction with this. Too much of anything or a lot of things, and too long, meaning it goes on for an extended period of time, equals, guess what? Stress. See this person? I've been there, just, oh gosh. What am I going to do with the money, the kids, the future, all those things. Too much, too long is going to end up in a stressed state, for sure in your body. Kind of runs up to the brainstem, into the emotional brain, then up to the problem-solving brain as well. Here are 3 pictures I would like you to hold in your mind for just a minute. Got a guy carrying a box. Got somebody in a hammock. It looks like they're pretty relaxed. And then you've got this poor donkey that looks extremely overloaded. Now, with those 3 images in mind, I want us to take another moment to reflect, if we could. Which one of those pictures best represents your stress level right now? Are you the guy with the box, or are you the one that's kind of relaxing in the hammock? Or is it possible you've been where I've been, where the weight is so much it's literally taken over your life, like that poor donkey? So what can you begin to do to consistently lower those stress levels? Just wanted to get your mind kind of primed to think with us. What can you do to slow down the pace of life? Now, that's a point that you can leverage. Now, I'm not telling you that you can instantly put the brake on your life, but to begin to do small things that may make a difference. Here are common stressors that are not unique. They fit us all. Finances, work, relationships. I mean, we have work relationships, don't we? We have relationships with our family, extended family, friends, and then their schedules. Oh, goodness. Today, wow. The scheduling seems to just be way too much for any one person to try to carry on at this time. And then there's parenting, much less the relationship of marriage or work or money. And then there's these daily inconveniences, like you ever just misplaced your keys? I've actually had them on my finger while I'm holding my shoulder pack and frantically trying to find them, but I've got them. Or running late or forgetting things or other inconveniences. I want you to think at this little list that you see under common stressors. Do you notice we rarely have just one? We don't. We often have multiple stressors. Beginning to identify those. Beginning to make them a matter of your prayer life and sharing with your friends that you need support in those areas. These things are very common, but they don't come one at a time. They come in groups of like 50, it seems like. I like this phrase, and I can't tell you where I heard it, but American culture is going Mach 4 fast in a camel body. Look at that poor old camel. He's just sweating, and gosh, it's too much for him. See, we're in this technological age where everything can really move fast in sort of a mechanical way, whether it's phones or TVs or cars or planes. But in the human body, it is made for a slower pace. It just is. It's not going to be able to handle all of that pressure. You'll begin to hit some of those physical difficulties we talked about before. Give some thought to that. Do you think we're going Mach 4 in a camel body? I sure do. And here's what I see happening, not only in my life, but in the life of others. We expend a lot of energy doing and going and caring, and I mean positive and good things as well. If you look at the bottom of this little graphic, you'll see replenish. It's so important that you have a way of knowing how much you're expending and then having a way to begin to replenish, kind of fill back up. In biblical times, they had a Sabbath, a day where they were to do nothing that was similar to work. And they would expend themselves during the week, and then there was a recoup time. You would see Jesus go off to the mountains or the desert. Maybe you're listening to this and going like, wow, I really don't have a replenishment cycle. That may be a place to start, what that might look like for you. Here's something you could do. You could begin to practice a spiritual activity called slowing. You need to first notice when you're going pretty fast. Notice that it's a bit much. Then select a day or half a day where you're going to intentionally practice slowing. Here's some ideas. You could get in the longest line at the grocery store. Don't hit me over that one. I'm just giving you some ways to get that body to slow down. You could walk more slowly, talk and write more slowly. This may be a practice you could hang on to that would begin to produce some good fruit over a period of time. Wow. Now that is an animal I don't want to cross. As a matter of fact, he feels pretty threatening. And my point is this: stress is a response to threat at its core level. Something is threatening us. That's why our heart goes faster. That's why our breathing goes faster. That's why our muscles tense up. That's why our stomach can get out of sorts at times. And I want you to know that there are a lot of messages, little small messages that we carry in our brain from how we've grown up and who we've been with and all of those things. And here's just a sampling of those that are underneath the stress itself. This is the stress, and this is underneath it. There might be a message like, I'll fail. Boy, that will stress you. Or, I'll be rejected. I'll be kicked out of the group. That'll create some stress. What about I'm not valuable? So we run faster and faster and faster and faster. Or I'm not adequate. Boy, all of these are so powerful. Then that last one, we'll have thoughts at times, and it could be exactly accurate, that this is just too much. It's too much. It's Mach 4 in a camel body. These ideas often are underneath the stress that we feel in our bodies and our emotions. Noting them and beginning to work on them can be a helpful thing. Well, when you get a threat message, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit in this slide, you actually activate in the brain this fight-flight reaction, usually trying to get away or to push back, but usually to get away. The heart rate increases, breathing increases, muscles get tight. Your body's preparing for that fight-flight. And you know what? Effective parenting is nearly impossible for sure extremely difficult. If we're in that place where those threats are driving us, and they'll create what we call stress. So how do we respond to stress? We've talked about the body and other things. Well, you can try and notice it when your body sends you a message, a stress message. Stomach's tight, shoulders are tight. If you're parenting in that moment, separate yourself from your child. Take a simmer moment or a time out yourself. Don't overreact and emotionally or physically wound your child. Practice calming your stress-activated brain. We'll talk about more of those practices as we go. But first, a time for reflecting. Recall the last time you were stressed out because of parenting and all the other stressors that might have been there that we listed earlier. What tools have you used in the past to calm yourself? Just take as much time as you need for this. Just reflect on tools, resources you have that can help you calm. Are there additional resources that you could equip yourself with? If you're doing this in a group, you might can talk about that some, or with your mate, or you may can Google that. Here's some ideas. Calming that stress-activated brain. You could try abdominal breathing. You can't see this, but I have a hand on my stomach and a hand on my chest. Abdominal breathing is when your stomach comes out first, so you're taking a breath in, and then your chest. And you would hold that, you would do that for a count of 5. Then you would exhale for a count of 5 until there's a calm. Now, I wish I could tell you that's one inhale and one exhale, but that's not true. It will take a while. Now, if you've practiced this a lot, it comes easier. But this slows the heart rate and the breathing. You could do something physical, jog in place, jump up and down, jumping jacks. Physical movement helps to shift the brain in a lot of ways. You could listen to soothing music. Smells are really helpful if you have a calming, safe kind of smell, candle or an oil. Chewing gum will help, when that jaw gets really, really tight. You could use your imagination to visit a safe and relaxing place. Maybe there's a specific Bible story or passage that's important. You could begin predicting other events that are coming. And what I mean by that is not getting you so that you're seeing catastrophes coming, but being predicted so you can prepare yourself when one's out there and coming towards you. Here are some, just an additional thought. The stress that you're having in the moment can be addressed much more effectively with these calming activities if you have been practicing those activities all along. That practice prepares your brain to be able to respond in more of an automatic fashion. I don't know of any other way of changing something significant than baby stepping consistently over and over again and creating a new habit. And here's something that may be a little bit new to you, at least the way I'm going to explain it. Parenting is about repair. A neuropsychologist told me that. Parenting is about repair. And I thought about that, and I thought, yeah, that's right. You see this picture of parents that are probably stressed out. Maybe this little girl is behaving in a way that has frustrated them. And so they are doing something that's not real healthy. Then you see another picture of a little girl being held by her dad. That's one way to repair. You can see that she's softened in that picture with her dad and has her arms around his neck versus the other little girl. Good enough parents, not perfect, but good enough parents repair relationship ruptures quickly. We would say in the Christian tradition that We ask forgiveness. We say we're sorry. We act responsible for the things that we do that are not helpful to others. That's what parenting is about. It is about repair because we're going to make mistakes. We're going to make mistakes. And those mistakes don't have to be horribly damaging to the child if we'll repair them. Now, here are some guidelines. Do what it takes to calm your stress brain. See how we've been talking about stress, trying to get that brain to calm down. And when that brain is calm, using whatever methods or techniques you've learned, approach your child in a soft manner. Not with the frowny brow, but eyebrows up. That helps a little bit. Softer voice. And do this when your child's ready to communicate. You can't repair by forcing them to listen to you. Give them, they need space to. Honestly confess what you did wrong. I was too loud. I was really mad at somebody at work and I came home and I took that out on you. Told my kids that is not the way Jesus wants Daddy to act. And I am really, really sorry. And I'm going to work more on that. Ask your child when he or she is ready to forgive you. Boy, that takes some vulnerability. We were talking about it with the children, but for the adult, right? We actually emotionally connect with our children when we do this type of repair. It's a blessed tool to have in your tool belt. And here's another timeout for as much time as you would like to take with it. Just recall a time that you overreacted to your child or children. For me, their name is 100 of them. And what did you do after you calmed down in that situation? Is repair something you need to strengthen in your relationship with your child or children? Our next lesson is about how growing up in a family influenced and shaped us. And if we never heard, I'm sorry, or will you forgive me, or any type of repair, you might be learning it for the very first time. And I would just say it's a great, honorable, and good thing to do, even if we didn't have it done to us when we were young. Now, I want to leave you with some ideas, just parenting practices out of the stuff that we've talked about in this last 30 minutes or so. Would you practice noting potentially stressful encounters with your children? If you could even list them, because there's a limited number of the ones that get to you, then you might be more prepared and you can avoid them. Can you begin practicing? Can you begin to practice each day de-stressing yourself? I put distressing, that's why I hesitated on the slide. But how do you de-stress? What can you do to bring it down, to offload a certain amount each day? And the last thing is you can begin to practice repair with your child. Of course, with your spouse and whoever else. It's an important thing. Well, I know that's been a lot of information, and you can take all the time you need to reflect on things and to review, and I think that's really, really good. And really glad that you're joining me. Next time we're going to take a look at how growing up a certain way shaped us so that we have become a certain type of parent. It's not hopeless. Even if you had trauma and lots of distress, that's what we're going to do next week or our next session. I look forward to seeing you then.